And good morning, friends, and also good morning to Pete. Come on, Pete, you know you had that coming. I acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, the Whadjuk Noongar peoples. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and to Aboriginal elders and peoples from other communities who may be taking part in this live stream today. Where are we? Where are we? Gotta find the tab. Hello, is this thing on? The TTS is running. It is just connecting because the stream only just went live, so it is in the process of catching up with chat.
Said, hello, hello, is this thing in?
Yeah. Is it in or on? On or in? In or on? I don't know. Maybe around. Paul. Is this? And Paul says, here it comes. Come on, Paul. Is he going to say? Oh. It says blocked. Hang on. Can I make it say it from... I don't know. It just says blocked. I can't unblock it. It has completed onification. All right. Okay. So we are here. I better start paying attention, hadn't I? I have. I was a bit blocked. Oh, okay. Mitchell says.
Outside the box said, feeling a bit bleary-eyed here this morning.
Yeah, I am very bleary-eyed too. The rest of my body is also bleary, but you don't need to know about that. Just the eyes of. Okay, just the eyes are bleary. As Peter says. As Pete says. Oh, that one's blocked as well. That's interesting. Okay, so I'm going to do some super quick good mornings this time. DIY said this.
Super chat, where you at? Let the party glow. Lights up, feel the clap in this awesome show.
Not necessarily awesome. How was the barbecue? It was pretty hot, bro.
Pete said, IIRC/say is only available to members and staff.
Yes.
Does Peter have new profile picture?
Does Peter have a new profile picture? Maybe. Looks like Max to me. If Pete is... if Pete is Max. Okay. Yeah, what would be useful? Mitchell, I don't know. I don't want to... Pete, are you disliking and unsubscribing from multiple accounts for the stats? Because that's really going out there. Yeah, another account for dislike and unsubscribe.
Pete said, nah, that's a different account.
What would be super useful, Mitchell? I really hate putting in feature requests because Mitchell has done all of this awesome TTS stuff with all of the text thing that goes on in the background. And I don't want to ask for anything extra, but it would be really cool. Okay, Mitchell is waiting. It would be cool to be able to click a blocked speech message just to be able to play it. So have it generated by default. Like I can click on Pete's doing this.
Pete said, nah, that's a different account.
So generate the message, like do the TTS thing maybe. I'm not sure how that part of it works. Do the API call to Google TTS or whatever you do, but just don't play it. And then I could click play for non-member things if I felt like it. Scope creep, says Simon. Yeah. DIY. I'm walking around a big, how do you say that? Mall or mall with my wife tuning in. That depends on where you are in the world. Going down to the mall. No, it's a mall. Like what a shark does. Are we random enough yet? It's like the infinite improbability drive. You never know what's going to happen. Is it stochastic? No. Is it random? I believe it is. Shopping centre. DIY in the ghetto is USA, so it's a Mal. Yeah, it's a shopping centre, says outside the box. Austin, from one stream to the next. Welcome. All right, so if I press...
Pete said,
where is
what
it?
we need is a super chat function that pays US.
Pays US. Pays... Hang on, where was that? Pays US. Oh, pays us, as in you. Yeah. So Austin did a stream just before mine, and he was doing his own version of Project Dopamine. So here is just a quick shout out. I'm going to throw this in the chat. Eggs are expensive now, says Espro. If you have not subscribed to Austin's Creations, go and do it. You should. So Austin has just been taking some... this got any funky music yet? I don't think it does, Pete. Austin has just been doing a little spreadsheet of... I'm going to move this over here. Move this up here.
D in the ghetto said, more lol.
Mall. Mall. Nope. You were denied, Pete. Member for 21 months. Thank you, Pete. Dislike, unsubscribe, and be a member. Ooh. Interesting. Austin says, have a huge summer ahead, lots of design work, and I'll be setting up and streaming a PNP. Ah, Austin, what are you getting? Is it yours? Are you setting one up yourself or for someone else? I want to know. And DIY, member for 15 months. Thank you. So, anyway, as I was saying, Austin, I paused this right at this moment because Austin was, just before this stream went live, before I had to jump over and make sure the cameras and things were running, Austin was talking about 3D printing the enclosure for this device that he's been working on for a little while. And, aha, here we go. Pete needs the funky music. This one is just for Pete.
Super chat, where you at? Let the party glow. Lights up, feel the club in this awesome show.
Why do I feel like a radio DJ? It's this over-the-top jingle sort of music. So, anyway, Austin was just talking about his experiences printing with different filaments. He did a print with, the way he put it was something like standard old PCTG, and also did this in carbon fiber, I think PCTG with carbon fiber, if I remember correctly, and in ABS, and at a funny angle to try to fix layer lines. And it looks like it's come out really nicely. So anyway, if you are interested in watching Austin make stuff, go and sub to his channel. And on the subject of Austin, so I'm going to put you on the spot and invite you, PTG, CF, ABS, matte PETG. Okay, that was the last one. It was while you were talking about this that I hit pause on it and jumped out to make sure I was okay to log in on my chat, on my stream. So one thing that I'm curious to know is, has anyone here used PCTG? Now down at Aurorum, which is a filament manufacturer just down the road from me, Ringwood South area. It's not that far from here. It's like 15 minutes drive away. Aurorum is a little factory down here which makes a whole lot of 3D printer filament, and that's where I normally get my filament from. PETG is my go-to filament. I use it pretty much exclusively. In fact, if I'm quiet, you might be able to hear the printer running because we need things printed for the assembly project that we're going to do today on the stream. And So we're going to get the radio jingle again, aren't we? Here we go. Is it coming up? Henrik. I haven't said hello to everybody. How about we skip that for today?
Super chat, where you at? Let the party grow. Lights up, feel the clap in this awesome show.
Way too much energy for me on a Sunday morning, but thank you, Henrik. Yeah, so Arimas is the name, I think it's Arimas, is the name of the guy who owns that company. He owns Aurora. And the last couple of times that I've gone in there and bought PETG, ooh, the printer just finished. That is the sound of a Prusa Mark III finishing its job. A very, very familiar sound. So the last couple of times I've gone in to buy PETG, he has been pushing PCTG on me and said that it is like PETG but better. I don't remember what the C stands for. I don't even remember what the E stands for. Isn't PETG something like polyethylene glycol? So there's PET, which is the thing that is typically used for like Coke bottles and that sort of thing, which is polyethylene. And then the glycol is added to make it work better as a printer filament, so that when it's going through the hot end it all melts and it's all smooth and stuff. So PETG is, I'm pretty sure it's polyethylene glycol, and yes, I know I could just look it up. And PCTG is some variant that is supposed to be better. So I bought a roll and I tried it, and the result was terrible. And being the lazy ass that I am, I then pulled it out of my printer and put, yeah, it won't overheat, Michael, with glycol. Okay, I've got to try to pronounce this. Austin put it here. Hexylenidimethylane terephthalate DIY. I'm being spammed with I'm being spammed with the with the radio DJ stingers. Thanks DIY. So yeah, Wagonload says, I've seen videos of people using soda bottles for 3D filament. Yeah, that is... this would be a good test, Scott. Let's see what the TTS says of it.
Polycyclohexylenidimethylene terephthalate.
How did he got that right, I think. Polycyclohexylenidimethylene. Polycyclohexylenidimethylene. It's that middle bit that throws me. Hexylene dimethylane. Polycyclohexylene dimethylene terephthalate. Yeah. Anyway, so from what I understand, PCTG prints very much like PETG, except at a higher temperature. So Orimus was told me that he normally prints at about 280 C with a heated chamber, and something about, yeah, I don't remember. Anyway, so PCTG, I think I didn't have my profile right, is what it comes down to. And I think the idea is that the surface finish you get on PCTG depends on the temperature that you set it to. So if you have the temperature set high, like to...
Imogen Ann said, bless you.
Bless me? What? Oh, okay. Yes. Okay, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Imogen Ann said, bless you.
Thanks, Imi. If you have the temperature high, it prints really glossy, and it comes out like a glassy finish. And if you have the temperature a little bit lower, it's supposed to still print well, but it comes out with more of a matte finish. Henrik, let's see if this works. Come on, TTS, do your thing. It'll catch up in a moment. Here we go.
Pneumono-ultramicroscopic silico-volcanoconiosis.
Yeah, bless you, Henrik. Bless your heart. Okay, so yeah, why am I talking about PCTG? That's right, because Austin was talking about filament types. What I need to do is, so last time I went down to Aurorum, which was maybe 2 weeks ago, I got several rolls of PETG because I know I needed to do a bunch of printing, and oh no. Okay, let's see. Can it speak Welsh?
Pete said, Lan viapith gwindith gagerith wundrobith lenticilio gogogoth.
This is going to be a day of torturing the TTS, isn't it? It's going to be one of those days. Just 1 second. All right, throat clearing was required. So I need to put the time in to tuning the profile on my, ooh, okay, building a shelf of benchies to test settings. All right, go G-O, no, not the dot. No, it's double G. G-O-G-G-O. No, not the dot.
Austins_creations said, I've been building a shelf of benchies to test settings and filaments to see their quality.
Everyone always thinks it's the dart. So, Austin, I would like to invite you. This is public. Okay, everybody else, just close your ears for a minute. I just want to have a private conversation with Austin. Okay, so. No, Austin, now that nobody else is listening, would you like to come on the stream sometime moderately soon so that we can talk about firmware for the air quality sensor? Because to me, that is a total black box. I don't have any idea. Michael says, I reckon it's... Oh, no, Henrik.
Jonathan Oxer, born the 26th of July 1970, London, England, is a computer programmer, Debian developer, author, entrepreneur, and free software activist. He lives in Melbourne, Australia.
Stop it.
Austins_creations said, happy to join anytime.
Thank you, Austin. No more quoting from Wikipedia, please. Do it now. No, we're not going to do it now. We're not going to do it now. We need to get organized. So that's going to be, I think, one of the final follow-up stages. Oh, okay. So I've got Project Dopamine on the, yes, Mitchell. Press the pause button on the playing audio in the chat screen to pause. Thank you. And now it's going to say it.
Said, press the pause button on the playing audio in the chat screen to pause.
Okay, thanks, Mitchell. Tassie Bob is here. Oh, and Paul Schultz says, I want to write an ESP home version. Yes, so air quality sensor. I'm going to add something. Assemble the 4.2, 4.1, 4.2, whichever they are, boards. So the update on that is the boards are in production. In fact, I'm going to have a quick look at JLC, my order status. I put in an $800 PCB order a few days ago. Whew. It's a lot. It's a lot of PCBs.
Scott Miller said, Sholbay tested the pause button on the message about the pause button.
Oh, should have tested the pause button. That's right, yes. Which would mean that I would need to bring that window to the front. At the moment, the TTS window is actually a little bit obscured. So what have I got? That one is completed fabrication. That one's partway through. That's completed fabrication. Where are we? Air quality sensor. It has completed fabrication, and so has the stencil. Excellent. Excellent. There are also a bunch of orders for client things, so I can't show you this on screen. I can bring up, where are we? This, I can bring you I can show you this at least. Here we go. So yeah, as I said, 800. It was an $800 PCB order because it has a bunch of client boards in it, some of which are bulk quantities for production. I've got, I think, 5 stencils, which are all framed, so physically big, and they take a lot of shipping and a whole lot of other things. So anyway, one of the things in the order is the updated version of the board. 3D. Oh, I don't even remember if I checked. Oh, I didn't update the version number on the silk screen. And I don't know if I checked the...
Can you show us the 3D version?
Oh, the 3D version, you're talking about in Fusion? This is the this is the 3D render just on JLC. Layers, layers. It's only... Anyway, why am I... This is not a musical. Okay, this live stream is not a musical. Anyway, so this is the updated air quality sensor. The change that you can see is it now has these 2 buttons as regular, they are regular tact switches, through-hole tact switches, and that is, oh come on, that is so that I can have the switches come out through the back of the enclosure instead of sticking up the top as I had them. What that means is that my existing enclosure design will work just fine. What I can do, so this is the version that we did a little while ago, a couple of streams ago, but this has the 2 holes on the top for the buttons, for the reset button through that hole and the mode button through that hole. And that makes it hard to get the PCB in because of the angle that it has to go in. Now the buttons are going to be coming straight out the back, right here. And that means that all it needs, what I can do is delete the top holes on the enclosure, and then the back panel that screws on to this just needs to have 2 holes for the 2 buttons and a little slot for the USB-C connector, which is right there. And that's going to make it so much easier to assemble and print. Well, not that printing is hard. And so the good news is these boards, the updated ones, have finished fabrication. So I think what we need is one more stream to wrap up the air quality sensor so that we can mark this one as this one here, so that we can mark this one as done. So it is assemble 4.1 boards, then revise enclosure to suit, and discuss firmware with Austin. Alright, so those are the basic things to do before this is marked off as done. So Austin, what we'll do is get in an enterprise? Oh, sorry. Distracted by something in the chat that I don't understand. So yeah, I think one stream about the air quality sensor and it will be as done can be. And at that point, but I'll do this after I can assemble the V4.1 boards and revise the enclosure. because I think what I want to do is maybe not do that actual assembly on the stream, but do it in advance so that I can just show the end result. Make that a stream where Austin comes in as a guest or slash co-host, and then after that I just need to assemble a few of the boards for the 3 people that are going to want to buy them. So yeah, good question. Some call it fun. So you're going to add columns C status and D completed date. Well, status on all of them is incomplete right now. Yeah, but that's a good point. At some time, one of these is going to get to the point where I say, yes, that one is done. And then I'm going to have to start figuring out how to annotate that. I think I want to make it go green. I want to make this go like this so that I feel happiness when I see that color. But for now, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it as undone and we'll come back to it. So, update silk screen with Sharpie, says James. Right. Conditional formatting, says Espro. Yeah, that's right. So what I could do is say, if this was the status column and it was complete, I could say, I could do, where are we? Format, conditional formatting, and I could say that goes to, no, I don't like that color. I want to make it that color. If, format cells if, custom formula is, and it will be something like C3 equals complete. Will that do the job? I don't know. No. Anyway, I need to look up how to do the how to do the stuff. Percent complete column with conditional, says Don S. Okay. Percent complete. I am so bad at estimating completion percentage. I don't trust myself to put a number in there anymore. It would go up and come down and go up and come down. You could plot it over time and it would look like this. So let's not have a percentage complete. But best guess is done. So my feeling is that air quality sensor is the one that is closest to being marked off here. Most of these are from Mac Area Lighting, Do It, Weldom. Yeah, I don't know. If I build the benches, if I build the mechanical area benches in the next little while, maybe that will get done before the follow-up video about the air quality sensor, so it may be finished first. I don't know. I was actually pondering welding up the frames this afternoon because it's not 0% not started. 1 to 99% is almost done, 100% probably done. Complete is a Boolean field. I take issue with that because nothing is really complete. My definition of done for this, because in software, in agile development, you have to have a definition for done. My definition for done on these projects is not that they are never going to change in future. It is that it is complete to the point that I am happy for the designs to be public and that I can put it aside and it's actually at a useful point. I might come back and revise it sometime down the track, but it's at a point where I can put it out of my mind and it is no longer something that is just sort of going around Pete in the back.
Your face is done.
Yeah, my face is done. Thanks, Pete. Done like a dog's dinner is my face. It's a sad, sad situation.
Pete said, your face is done.
I almost broke out into song again. It's a sad, sad situation. So, oh, I've done this. Bypass panel if the board exists in the job.
Pete said, your face is done.
Pete, shut up. Okay, I'm just going to show you this. I know I'm going to be doing the Testomatic thing
Pete
today.
Said, your face is done.
I'm going to mute you, Pete. Or is that... hang on, how was that happening? Was that an error? I think...
Pete said, your face is done.
Yeah, working. There is... It is just repeating it. I can see in the TTS back end, it's like it's got an error, and it's just saying
said,
working on it.
Your face is done.
I'm going to reload.
Said, your face is done.
I'm going to...
Pete said, I think I broke TTS.
You did.
Pete...
I'm reloading TTS right now. Page not found. Back to home. Okay. Loading. All right. So while that is happening, I did actually. Where are we? No, that's not it. Yeah, there is something broken on the portal at the moment. It's not loading. I did actually do this thing, bypass file if the board exists in the job. Well, Pete, it was amusing because it was talking about my face over and over again. My face is broken, yes, I know that, and TTS was broken talking about my face. So it is appropriate. It's like looking in a mirror and the mirror cracks. CD... I'm just getting to the correct location. OpenPnP jobs. Yes, CD test. Yes. So I'm going to do a quick demo of this, even though it's hang on, I'm going to remove that. This is totally embarrassing and horrible, horrible Python. Not that Python's horrible, I'm saying that I am horrible. I'm horrible at Python. So, yeah, there's a whole lot of refactoring required, but it works. Have a look at splitjob.py. I had to change the order of operations of a bunch of things in here. But what it does now is opens a job out of OpenPnP, and well, first it checks if the job file exists when you tell it what your job file is. I've still got these hard-coded paths to the machine configs. It's pulling it out of the backups of the configs for the two pick-and-place machines, parsing the XML, defines the job files, which hasn't changed. Here we go. So the difference is it looks for a panel source file in the job file, and which it was doing previously, but now if the panel source file doesn't exist, oh sorry, if it does exist, so if it's not equal to none, which is the value returned by the data find operation here, searching the XML. So in other words, if there is a panel file, it opens it and gets the job file out of it and prepares the panel files, and then somewhere down here is the end of that operation. So then, yeah, that's all of that. And then check if the board file exists and fail if it doesn't exist, etc. Prepare the new board files, update placements in board files, and write them out. And also write out the panel files if it's panelized. So this is the condition. It now knows whether the job is panelized or not, and it only does certain things if it's panelized, writes out those panel files, and updates the references. So, and that's it. That's the end of the thing. So what this now does is follow two logical paths. It either, and I've got two jobs here. This job does not have a panel defined. It is just a job with a board, and that's it. So if I do split and I pass it T-Rex MCM job and get it to run, oh, I can't run it on my, that's right, I can't run it on this computer because I need to set up the stuff in the environment. Anyway, I need to install Beautiful Soup and other stuff. So what happens is you can target either an unpanelized job or a panelized job, and it just transparently works. Like it just deals with it, which is cool. So bypass panel file if the board exists in the job. So what do I need to do next on that? Put it on GitHub. I still haven't done that. Oh, and also I need to have configurable paths to OpenPnP configs, because that's hard-coded at the moment. In fact, that is pretty much the only thing that's hard-coded. I just need to resolve that, figure out some way to be able to do it. TTS F5. Okay, thanks, Mitchell. Let's reload TTS and see if it is back. Loading, loading, loading. I wondered why it had been quiet for a while. I'd forgotten about TTS. Okay. TTS is back, I believe. It should be. Right. Now, so OpenPnP cluster, that may actually be done really soon as well. That is so close. It is very, very close to being usable. So, well, distributable, more than just usable. I've demonstrated that it works on my local. Do not click on the bells. Okay, I won't click anything. I'll keep my hands off the keyboard. I won't do anything, Mitchell. The where are we? Oh, Espro is testing it. Let's see if it works. Will it say anything? Will it? Will it? Okay, I don't know. Maybe it will. Yeah, so Testomatic. Let's talk about Testomatic. In fact, let's build something. But first, if you have a TTS, no, if you have a she who shall not be named, hit the mute button now, because I am going to say, Alexa, turn on bench 1.
Okay.
And then I'm going to mute my own because it's saying it really, really quietly. Oh, okay. Espero doesn't have TTS privileges. Oh, it's catching up.
SBRO Kelly doesn't have TTS privileges. Mitchell R said, do not click the bells. Not yet. In a bit. Lol.
Okay. It all suddenly caught up with a bunch of messages. I just saw a whole lot of activity going on there. So I am going to switch to... I'm going to show you a few things. There are... How far in am I? 40 minutes in, and I'm just getting to the topic. So this is normal. This is the way things usually are. We are exactly on schedule. Well, no, normally it takes me an hour to get to the topic. Okay. Now, just in passing, once again, this is not the topic. I just made this solder reel holder. When did I do it? Last weekend, I think. Yeah, I can't remember. I think it was last weekend. Might have been during the week. It's all a blur. So I just made a laser cut solder reel holder.
Pete's face will break TTS again.
Maybe. It's more likely that my face will break it. I designed this with sandwiches of parts, and then this slides out. You can see I used clear acrylic for the bottom because you can't see it, and it was just a scrap piece. And you can see the discoloration from the super glue. So this is all super glued together, and it's got, can you see the guides? It's very hard to see on, if I get the angle just right, the shadow will show it up. There's a slot that goes down here and then goes vertical. It comes in at like a 70-degree angle, and whatever it is, and then drops down vertically so that the roller slides in and then drops into the bit at the bottom. And the little spindle that it sits on, that's just a 3D printed tube with an M3 bolt screwed into each end, and the M3 bolt provides a stainless steel smooth surface which rotates on the laser cut acrylic. And this was because I got sick of the I wanted to be able to have 2 different sizes of solder at each of the desks and have it run really nicely. This is really smooth. You can pull the solder out. And Tom and I have been talking about a motorized solder extractor thingamajiggy. So that's a project to do, but I'm trying not to let myself get distracted by that. Oh, and it's got little rubber feet on the bottom. So I'm trying not to let myself get distracted by that. I had, where, here. So this is the type of reel that I've been using. I've got a few of these. I think I've got 5 of them or something. But it's physically quite a bit bigger. These are designed to take 1 kilo reels, and I normally use 500-gram reels. So it's they're kind of large and clumsy on the desk, and often we have 2 of them on the desk because we have 2 sizes of solder, or you might have leaded and unleaded or whatever. And yeah, I just don't want it to make my own. So now I have 1mm and 0.6mm solder on that dispenser. Nothing exciting there. No, and yep. The other one of which is like 41 bucks. Yeah, these reels. So each of these reels is about $50, give or take. And I got a bunch of them. I've got many hundreds of dollars worth of solder just sitting around on these benches. Like, go dirt and dirt and oh, there's more. There's like $300 of solder right there. It adds up pretty fast. Yeah, and there's more on other benches. So yeah, anyway, just thought I'd show you my funky little solder reel dispenser. And obviously it could be assembled with as many bays as you want. You could make a single bay version or a triple bay version or whatever. But it's pretty cool. So I'll put that back out of the way. Now, another thing I want to show you is what I was doing here. This is what I did yesterday. I assembled some of these modules. Now these modules, this is part of a panel of USB to, they're kind of USB to serial. These are actually ESP flasher modules, but they are designed specifically to go, no that's not, that's a CAN bus module. But they are designed specifically to go on test breakouts. So on test modules in Testomatic. What this is for is when you have a test module, so just waving it around for illustrative purposes, this is a test module, and this particular test module, in fact there's one of them there, this is a different version. This one is, this was butchered out of an ESP flasher module with an IDC connector on it. And I did this as a bit of a hack, and it comes up to pins there, and then it's distributed to other pins to program the target board. I think these 2 might be, I can't remember. Anyway, so this is I am not, I'm not articulating very well at all today. Okay, I will try to explain better. The I/O that is broken out from the test chassis here includes 4 USB ports going through the USB hub that is built into the Testomatic that is on the PCB. And then if you want to connect to your device under test via CAN bus or USB serial, or, well, CAN bus is SPI, but same sort of thing. If you want some other communication method other than just USB, or you want, or GPIOs like ADCs, DACs, etc., then what you can do is add a module onto the test breakout. And in this particular case, I wanted to be able to flash the target board and in this case, so this particular board runs an ESP32, so I needed a USB to an ESP32 flasher, and that's what that module is, and that's what this module is. So if you are designing a breakout board and you want to be able to program an ESP32 that is attached to that breakout board or the test module, you can just get one of these modules, drop it into your design, and you're done. You don't have to do all of the USB to serial conversion, etc. Of course, you don't even need that if you're using an S3, because you just pass the USB straight through. But this is for programming classic ESPs. And here we have another test breakout. This is a different one to this. This one is for the joystick module for controlling a water cannon. And on the bottom of it, you can see locations for a couple of modules. This location here is for the ESP flasher module. This location here is for a CAN bus module. So with this, what you can do is drop this module on. It connects by SPI back to the Raspberry Pi, and then it exposes CAN bus on this side. So if you want to be able to communicate using CAN bus to your device under test, drop one of these modules on and it's all taken care of for you. So anyway, 2 of the modules.
This is the way.
Cool. My goal here is to make designing the test breakout as simple as possible. I want to provide building blocks that allow you, so there's the framework for the overall test module itself with all of these breakouts, and there is the header, there's the EEPROM and other parts that go on here. I want to have all of that ready to go.
Refresh TTS and try the bell.
Refresh TTS and try the bell. Okay, let's refresh TTS and try the bell. Oh, so the bell, does that make it play the thing? I'm going to try one. Okay, I'll try Michael's. I didn't hear anything. It said generating audio, but then it, oh, okay, I'll try it for one that doesn't have, okay, I'm going to try S-Bros. This was not a say. Generating audio.
At Superhouse TV, I don't think our hardware store has solder for electric. 90% say not for electric, and the other 10 ambiguous. One of which is like $41.
Right. It requeues it as a say message. Nice. Mitchell adding features as I dream them up. Thanks, Mitchell. Yeah. So it overrides anything. Groovy. So if I see someone's regular text message and I think it should be turned into a say, I can just click on it. That's really nice. Back to here. I feel like my brain left the building about 5 minutes ago. I mean, it was never really in the building in the first place, but once I switched to talking about Testomatic, I just became discombobulated. So let's try to have some order in this. My plan for today, I'm going to, what am I going to do? My plan was actually to assemble this because yesterday I laser cut the pieces to go with it. And the reason that the printer was running, in fact, if I go over to the 3D printer and grab the parts off it, is that it was printing some spacers that we are going to need. These things. Oh, I can feel a sneeze coming on. What caused that? I don't know. Yeah, so these are spacers equivalent to the red things that you see in here. It's just that I printed them in black this time. I really am going to sneeze. Oh, I just hit the mute button in time. Ah. Okay. Okay. Breathe. Just breathe. Whew. So, yeah. All right. Let's try to get this back on track. I'm going to put this aside and I'm going to, what am I going to put on? I don't remember what values those resistors are. I might be able to figure it out by looking through the microscope, but I might not. So, because some of them will be 1%, etc. Only a manual scratch tool. Oh, okay. Okay, I'm gonna do this. Clicking the button.
Say bless you.
Yep. Oh, interesting, because it wasn't a say message, but Stamos had written the word say. It literally said say. Yeah, the logic for that would be a tricky one to get around. The Superhouse project. Sorry, I'm in Fusion at the moment, and I am just going to bring up Testomatic test modules, and this one is TM and oh, I just got a message. What? I just got a Discord message. Sorry. I am trying to multitask and I fail at multitasking. Alright, I'm going to try opening Discord and hope it doesn't open on that screen. In fact, I'm going to do this and force you to look at my broken face while it opens. Pete sent me a message. Alright, Pete, membership milestone, johnsedit.org. Is that 1 minute and 9 seconds long? I'm really worried, Pete. Should I be playing this? I don't know if I should. And do I trust you if you tell me that I can play it? Pete? Pete? Should I play it? Okay, I'm going to hit play. Mr. Fix-It! Hey! I'm going to hit play, but I'm going to be ready to hit mute. Pete says it's fine. Why does it say it's 1 minute and 9 long? Mitchell says don't trust Pete. Okay. Never trust Pete. Alright, that can... Okay, membership milestone. I think it needs to be a little bit less than 1 minute and 9 seconds long though, Pete. Unless it just sort of plays in a low, at a low, at a low volume in the background. Okay. What am I doing? I am doing this. So this is the actual board. So where are we? Values, T values, and let's go. No, not that. I want to go monolayer. 1K5, 2K2, 1K5, 2K2, 10K. And they're all blue. Okay, do I have enough blue? I don't think I do. I've got plenty of blue in the pick and place machine, of course. And I have spare reels of blue, but just loose ones sitting here. Not so many. How about green? I can give this one green power LEDs. Ah! Nope. I've got 2 green LEDs. What a failure. What a failure. I've got 2 blue LEDs, 2 green LEDs. How many reds do I have up here? If I can find it. Red? Oh, I've got heaps of red. Okay. I'm going to use red LEDs. So I'm going to put on, so anodes to the right, and then we've got 1K5, 2, and there's the EEPROM. I'm not going to bother putting that on. I'm just going to put these on. I don't even have the EEPROM in use at the moment. Where am I going? There. There. Move that out of the way. Got my red LEDs. Got this. And I'm just doing this so that I can get to putting the things on. What have I got? I will do a little bit of pre-tinning of these resistors and the LEDs. Just do 1 pin on each. And then I'll chuck it under the microscope in just a moment. And there is the 100 nanofarad capacitor that, according to discussion on Discord, should possibly be 1 microfarad. 0603 resistors is what I need. Let's switch to we'll switch to close-up cam. Extreme close-up. So I need 1K5s on first and third, and I need to go there, I believe. There. 1K5s. Okay, 1K5s. Oh, that camera's rotated. Okay, my view is straight there. I'm going to rotate this camera. Which way? Rotate that way. Okay, that straightens it up. So 1K5s. Get a couple of those. Get off. And this is not exactly going to be a thrilling exercise. Now, what else do I need? I need a couple of 2K2s. I mean, all these resistor values are probably going to be out, and they're slightly arbitrary anyway. These are just the current limiting resistors for the LEDs. And now that I'm running, I'm going to put red LEDs on this instead of blue LEDs, so all the forward voltage drops and things are going to be wrong anyway. But I didn't really even tune them in the first place. All I did was approximately proportionally scale them based on the voltage rails that they are connected to. I can hear Mitch outside calling his dog. There are a couple of very cute dogs that hang out in one of the factories just back up behind me. It's just an indicator. It's not meant to be a room light. It may end up being a room light. It may be that you need to have sunglasses on while using this tester. So I'm going to chuck some red LEDs down on here. Throw a few on the board.
Some call it fun said. When are you going to set up a street racing cam for us?
Yeah. Street racing cam. Yeah. I may actually do it because there were a couple of incidents on yesterday. There were some incidents. 2 incidents. And on one of them, yeah, anyway, I won't get into that too much. So I want to attach a camera in the tree just out near the end of the driveway. I am so bad at multitasking. If I'm trying to do something like soldering, I have trouble talking. My brain does not work that way. Those are pretty ugly looking joints. I'm just going to touch these ones up so they're slightly less ugly. Let the flux flow. Oh no, there's dead air, there's silence. Okay, I don't know if I can be bothered putting the EEPROM on here. Partly because I don't even know where they are. I really should, because if I'm going to assemble this, I don't want to have to take it apart again to put that EEPROM on. I don't even remember what it is. Something like a CAT32C64, isn't it? Let's have a look. What is the part number on that? Where is it? Oh, CAT24C32. I was out by a bit. CAT24C32. It might be in... Oh, it's all back. It might be in the IC's box. CAT32. Squirrel. Thank you for filling in for me. No, I actually don't know where they are. They might be in the cut tapes box or in the incoming box. So I am not going to waste. Yeah, I'm not going to waste time on that. Chuck those back up there. Let's instead get onto what do we get onto? How about some test pins? I have here my trusty kit of test pins and sockets and things, different sizes and types. So there was a question. You know, I actually wasn't even intending to do any Testomatic stuff today. The reason I'm doing it is that there was a bit of discussion on Discord, and someone, I can't remember who, said, oh, John's going to be doing Testomatic this week. So I thought, oh, okay, I'm doing Testomatic this week. So I need some resistors on here. Did that just fall right through? It did. The hole size needs to be improved a bit on that. These test pins have a little ridge around them to set the insertion depth. And what it should do is go to that point and then stop. And instead, I can pull it right through the PCB. I just got some new test sockets.
Said, Austin got ya.
Austin got me? Yep. If I go down to the bottom of the container, I wonder if these ones are any different. because I just got new ones in. No, they go straight through as well.
Austin's_creation said, that was me. For the portion of last week when you had mentioned it, you totally could have vetoed me.
No, it's fine. But I need to add some resistors on here as voltage dividers, because these are, what is that, DUT5V, and that's VN. So what these pins will be doing is coming in to ADC inputs here. So it's being divided down. All right, I need to look back at this and figure out what values I had assigned to those voltage dividers. So what have we got? A pair of 10Ks coming off that. That makes sense because that's going to take a 5 volt and halve it essentially. So I need a couple of 10Ks there, and I need a 10K and a 1K. That's a big divider. All right, I trust it. It'll be a big divider because it is coming down from potentially 26 or more volts. So it's a 10 to 1 divider. Well, it's not actually quite 10 to 1 because the divider is across a 10 and a 1, which is it's out of a divider of 11. So it is 1/11. Yeah, something like that. I'm confusing myself. I don't math good. So let's chuck a couple of resistors on here. I want a pair of 10Ks there, 10K there, 1K there. Very good. We've got 10K. These should all be 1%. I probably should use like 0.1% resistors on these, but it's doesn't have to be super accurate. Now this is, there is a very big topic of conversation that I want to go through with you all once I've finished this, and that is restructuring the Testomatic PCB so that the I/O is more universal. There. Yep. Now I need a 1K. 1K. Come on, got to find a 1K. Here we go. Oops. Because I'm still in decision paralysis about about how to connect the test pins. I want, ideally, to make the test pins universal so that any pin can be any function. At the moment I have blocks of pins. So I have a block of pins for digital I/O, a block for analog inputs, and a block for DACs, like analog outputs. I'm just doing this, just going to check under the microscope to make sure I actually got things on pads. Yes, I did. I was doing it from a distance. Just going to clean up the joints. Doing it from a distance. Only half able to see what I'm doing while keeping this under the camera. All right, so
_creation said you would need an FPGA then.
Ah, right, an FPGA. So that gets in, yes, we're opening up the topic of conversation. Could you get that car? There's something interesting being worked on next door. All right, I am going to just put, what am I going to do? I was thinking about just putting a couple of pins in here. Because these fall through, I can't rely on them to set the correct depth. And also look at this, look how much wobble there is. That means they're not going to be self-aligning. I really need to decrease the size of the holes on this PCB. So what I'll do is grab, I'm going to get more PCBs. More of those PCBs. I should have prepared myself a drink before starting the stream, because my throat is about to go on strike. It's complaining. So I got just like the minimum pack size of boards. And if I put them all together with this one on top, this is the one that I've added the parts to, and I put these through, let's see.
Cable Tie said, well, hello there, John, long time.
Cable Tie! Hello! Yeah, that decreases the wobble, which means that I should be able to solder it and have it stay a little bit more even.
3D print and alignment jig for installing the pin.
Yes, I could.
Austin's_creations said, isn't your coffee maker smart controlled?
It's remote controlled, but it's not smart enough to, what do I need? 7mm. But it's not smart enough to, sorry, my brain is elsewhere. How thick is that? 7.8mm. That's a bit on the thick side. What can I use? Sorry, I am mentally going through options here. For example, if I put spacers in between a couple of these, like that, if I put a 7mm spacer in there, and then sat it flat on the board, the ends of these would go against this. Or an alternative is, what is the distance on that? I think it's 3mm. Yeah, 3-ish. What about if I turned this over, in fact turn two of them over, that'll make it 3, because it's 1.6, that'll make it 3.2mm. I think this might work. So if I turn two of those over and sit pins in them like that, and I'll sit another pin in, just in a different location, like say there. I want to have some that are distributed. And there. Then I should be able to take this one, turn it over. And the trick now is going to be getting this aligned. Yeah, this is not a very practical plan. Those holes not being the right size has kind of thrown me. My assembly process relies on them being self-aligning. So now if I do that, and I solder those pins in place onto the bottom of this board, hopefully we will be in approximately the right place. Let's find out. And what I want to make sure now is that the solder does not wick down through the hole, because if it does, it'll bond this pin holder to one of the PCBs below it, and then I won't be able to get them apart. Let's see if it worked. I think it did work. And they even look kind of straight, amazingly. And they are even the correct height. Okay, so what that means is I'll be able to use those as spacers, because now it's going to keep the right height. So, okay, something else I should mention here. Diagram time. Diagram time. What can I draw on? I'll need a couple of different colors. I'll need a bit of paper. What about this one? Informed financial consent for health scope. Okay. What was this for? Some procedure I had done. What did I have done? Oh, that's right. That was when I went and injected myself with some stuff. So, yeah, I had to go and learn how to...
Said, Blue tack is also helpful for this type of stuff.
Yes, it is. That is true. But blue tack requires you to get it aligned first, and hold it in place. So anyway, let's imagine that we have green highlighter. This will be perfect. Imagine that this is the PCB, and the PCB is 1.6 millimeters in thickness, top to bottom. Then we want to have, so what I'm talking about here is the PCB of the tester. This is what the pins are being fitted into. And then we want to put in some test pins. And these are holders for the test pins. And they are shaped like, kind of like this. And then they're crimped at the bottom. But they've got this little ridge around them. And the distance from here to here is a critical dimension. In fact, I could have drawn that in here. In fact, let's do that. I'm going to extend my PCB. So they sit with the little ridge around them against the top surface of the PCB. And that dimension there is the distance from the top face to the PCB. And you can get them in different values. Oh, hang on, I've got to... Normal functionality has been resumed. So these sockets, you can see here I've got R75 2S, R75 3S, and they come in other sizes as well. The difference between them is that was another sneeze. The difference between them is that distance here, and that controls how high the pins sit above the PCB, because the actual test pin itself comes in a few different varieties. This one here, the B1, this is the really common sort of test pin. It's just a spear. It's a simple, let's see if I can get it under here. Where is it? It is a simple, come on, pointed end. And that is what is used to go up against a regular test pad. And then there are other ones like these. This is the LM2, which is another common one that I use a lot, which has a little, it's like a little conical thing. It's a bit hard to see here. And that can go into through holes. Like if you've got a through hole pad that you want to engage with, because this one will just go straight through the through hole pad. This is only good for going against flat pads. This one will engage with the through hole pad, and it will catch on the edge and not go into it, depending on the size of the hole, of course, and it will make electrical contact with the edge of the pad. So coming back to this view, if we want to have the type that has a conical point on it, what I would normally do is use the 2W height. No, the 3, I'm getting it around the wrong way. The 3W height. Oh, the other one. Okay, so there's the other one, which is the, oh no, I'm just telling you the wrong thing. The crown, LM, crown flat, crown pin, the Q. Okay. This is the other type that I use, the Q2. So these are the three varieties that I usually care about. The B1 on the left, the L, and the Q. Now you can see that the Q is like a little crown. It's got it's got sharp bits sticking up, and there's a hole in the middle, and this is to go onto the bottom of a pin that's sticking through the PCB. And so if you are putting a test board on top of this, imagine we have, once again back to here, where's my green thing? All right, so imagine we have our test board here, which is being pushed down onto the tester, and there is a copper pad there. So our B1 pin is making contact with the copper pad. Then you might have a through hole like this, and typically for that I would also use a 3W. So I would have the one that comes down like this, and then the pin with the type that's got like a conical end on it, and that engages. So I would normally use a 3W for that as well. And then the other option is you might have a connector or something mounted on here, like a pin header, and the pin comes down through the PCB and it's soldered onto the PCB. So you want to make contact with the end of this pin, but it's sticking through the PCB, which means the distance, like the distance from there to there versus the distance from there to there, is less. So in that case, what I do is I use a 2W socket, and then I use the pin with the little crown on it like that, and that engages with the end of the pin. And the 2W is shorter, so this distance here, it's lower than the 3W socket. So the 2W sits lower in the test breakout PCB, and that then brings the whole assembly down. So if you then use so this is one of the crown type pins. If you then use the crown type pin in here, it's lower, which accounts for that height there, which is the height of the pin sticking down through the PCB from the thing above. I haven't heard TTS for ages, and there should be people telling me off by now. So, either the stream's broken or everybody's gone to sleep. So the decision about which receptacle to use, and so R for receptacle, so R75 2S, R75 3S, and I've got 2W and 3W. The W is for wire. That means that it's got a pin on the bottom, and you could plug it.
_creation said, telling you off.
Telling me off. Thank you, Austin. So you could plug a DuPont cable or something onto that. The W style have the wire connection on the bottom. The S style do not. So normally I would use...
Fascinated by your artwork to comment.
Great. So typically I would use the 2S and 3S style receptacles, and then B1, Q2, etc., depending on what it is that I actually want to make contact with. So the point of all of that is that I need to pay attention to which of these receptacles I'm putting in. These ones that I've just got here are the 3W size receptacle, and I need to make sure as I'm assembling this, or is it this one, that I put 3W receptacles in the places where I want to use the through-hole contacts or the flat pad contacts. Now, these ones here, I know are all flat pad contacts. They are, in fact, I should get one of the PCBs that this mates up to. I'm going to do that right now. I will get one of those PCBs because I need to be able to just visually confirm that I'm not screwing this up and trying to make contact with a pin when I think it's a pad, and vice versa. So this is one of the PCBs, back to here, and it's going to sit like this on top of the test module. It rotates sideways. I can't remember why. Maybe it was just because it fit better. I'm not sure. I don't know why I didn't do it this way. I did it this way. Don't know. So you can see the silver pads on the bottom here, which are the test points, and then you can see pins sticking through. So these, for example, this is where the programming header goes.
All it's fun said. Do you call out the pin type in the silk screen?
Some call it fun, asked, just in case you couldn't hear it, some call it fun said, do you call out the pin type in the silk screen? That is an excellent point, and I don't think I've made variations, or have I? I really should do it on the silk screen. You're right, so that when you're assembling it, there is no question about which one is which. If I do an info on that test point, which one is it? Oh, it says 3W. Okay, so that is a 3W socket, R75 3W. And what did I do? Oh, this one isn't actually, like, this is just the original programming header, so that one is not called out. What about these ones? No, that one says 3W as well, and I think that should be a 2W. I don't even remember if I have the, where are we? Here are the test points. VCal, do I have?
Scott Miller said, sideways because you were tired thinking of laying down for a nap.
Yeah, probably. I just saw a message from Pete. Sorry, I was being distracted by that. Okay, Pete, I am going to listen to that more closely offline, but a lot of the lyrics I couldn't understand anyway. So I'm just going to try doing a part add, because I can't remember test. Pogo. Okay, I've got B1 and 3W, but I have not made, yeah, I need to make more variations of this, not because the footprint is actually any different, but just so that when it comes through on the board layout, you can differentiate it. So you can make the decision at design time if you're going to put down a 3W or a 2W socket, and ideally it would be a combination. So this here, this part here, the P75B1, this is for making a hole that is just the right size to insert the test pin without a socket at all. And then this one is to insert the socket, but it doesn't specify what pin goes in it. So what I should do is have all the different combinations. So I should have a 3W socket with a B1 pin in it and have the matching model. And then I should do a 2W socket with an LM2 or whatever it is in it. So that when you look at the 3D model, it represents it accurately as well. And also when it comes through in here, you can look at the footprint type. And yes, you're right, I could put it on the silk screen as well. So for now, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna YOLO it and just look at this. So, oh, okay, those are flat. It's a good thing I did check. I thought that these were going onto the bottom of pins, like onto here. But no, I was smart enough to add test pads alongside the pins so that I don't need to contact the pins. In fact, apart from the programming port, are any of these going onto pins? I don't think they are. I think they're all going onto test pads, which is excellent because I don't like going onto the bottom of pins. Mechanically, it's really nasty. So that means I can, well, these are a different case. They go onto here, so they do need the things. Now, this board is actually older. You can see that this is for a gym version 5.2. This is a gym version 5.3, and I added test points. So there are more test points on this than on this. I need to do an updated version of this. There are 2 test points here for the programming header that don't exist on here. So, what does all of this mean? I don't know. It means I should just get on with it. 11:30. Now what I should do, instead of subjecting you to the monotony of me soldering pins into the board, we should start talking instead about how to, in fact, I'm going to put the, yeah, I can do all of this fiddly stuff later when you're not sitting around waiting for me and bored. So I'm going to, what? What happened then?
Cable Tie said, sorry if I missed it, John, but where do you buy pogo pins? They always seem extremely expensive when I go looking.
Ah, yeah, yeah. What? What is that one? And now it's repeating. Is that broken and repeating? Or is it actually multiple subscription things? Am I going to have to come over here and hit mute? Yeah, so drill and wire wrap for now, said Don S. Yeah. There is a particular place I get them. In fact, I posted it in Discord. I'm going to see if I can find it.
He said, do what, John?
Do what? Do what? I don't know. I was probably halfway through a sentence and my brain misfired. Is that what happened? Testomatic. Okay, I'm going to copy. Oh, okay. In fact, I'm going to copy my whole message out of Discord and I'm going to stick it in the chat. So that is it? Oh, it's too long. Okay.
It said, terrific, really terrific. Scott Miller said, posted the link here for Ya John.
Yep. I'm going to do that. And then that. Oops. Yep. So that kind of explains it. Anyway, there was this question in the Testomatic channel on Discord about the test pins. So that was my response. Hopefully that is useful in a public location as well. So there's LM2 pins and there are the Q2 which are yeah, with did I say Q2? So with H2 pins, with B1 and with H2. So I'm looking at all the combinations of things here. H2, anyway, different things. I need to write up a little guide about it. I need to write lots of documentation. Okay, I am going to put aside the assembly of that module and look at, well, yes, I will. I was thinking about continuing with the module for a little bit first, but how about I don't?
Austin's_creations said, build a wiki. Scott Miller said, you need a wiki.
Yeah. What am I looking for? Testomatic and
Pete said
Testomatic
25
2.1.
minutes.
Oh, thanks, Pete. Let's do Let's do this. And let's do this, because I'm going to start hacking around on this. And then back to here, and we'll do that, and that, and that. And I'm going to move this out of the way so that we can see stuff.
Scott Miller said, 25 minutes until overtime.
And Testomatic, not Testomatic. What is this, the Dark Ages? Testomatic V2, how about we make it 2.2? It's kind of going to be 3.0. It could conceivably be 3.0, because what I'm wanting to do now is a major, no, I won't do the major increment. I'll just do the minor version increment. What I'm wanting to do now is rethink, and I'll get rid of that, rethink the way that the I/O pins are handled. Okay, and I started hacking around a little bit in this schematic, so I probably should go back and clean up the 2.1 schematic. So we have some options. This is the TCA9548A, which is an I2C I/O expander, but it has some interesting characteristics. And that is that each of these pins can be an analog input, a digital input, a digital output, an analog input, or an analog output, I think. I've got a TCA954A data sheet. Let us... Oh no, that's the switch. I'm looking at the wrong thing. This is the I2C switch. I'm on the wrong sheet. I need that. So this thing. This is it. The AD55, I'm going to bring up a data sheet for that one. AD5593R in TSSOP16. So this is the data sheet for it. So it's an 8-channel, 12-bit configurable ADC/DAC with on-chip reference. And what that means is that instead of having groups of pins, if I come back to here, in fact, I think I've got a spreadsheet of this. Maybe? I can't remember. Did I do a spreadsheet of this? Someone will remember and remind me. Yeah, so we've got the power stuff up there. Breakout, power, and I/O. So that's got SPI with chip enable and some other GPIOs, and the reset line for the tester. We've got the 4 USB channels broken out there.
Some Call It Fun said, I thought your design had expendable buffers at point of I/O.
Yes, that's right. So at the moment it's got so we've got GPIO 0, etc., all of these things, and they are being driven off MCP 230, no, not that one, here. They're being driven off here, the MCP 23017s. So the digital I/O pins are being driven off MCP 23017s. The analog inputs are using ADS 1115s, and the DACs, so the analog outputs, are using MCP 4728s. So that is 3 different types of chip. I'll see if I can get it all on screen here. Come on, select, 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 there. No, select, come on, there. So there we have 3 different types of chips for the 3 purposes: digital input and output, analog output. And that is reflected in the pin assignments on this big header right here. So if we get down past all of the power, breakout, USB, blah, 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 down in this area, we have 3 distinct sections. You can see that there is this first section for digital I/O, and we have 24 digital I/O channels there, and these are the ones that are connected to the MCP 23017s. But the 23017s can't do analog, either input or output, so these are purely digital. Then we have a section for analog inputs. So we've got 16 pins defined for analog inputs, which are going to those ADS111.5s. And then we've got 16 pins defined for analog outputs, which are going to those DACs. And so this was the strategy for the pin allocations, to have these 3 major blocks for the different purposes. But what this means is that there is a little bit of a limit of flexibility, because these pins can only ever be digital, these pins can only ever be DACs, but of course a DAC you can drive high or low, so you could use these as digital outputs. And these can only ever be analog inputs. So you've got these 16 analog inputs. And that seems like a reasonable strategy. It gives us 24 plus 16 plus 16 of the 3 categories of I/O pins. And if you were building a tester where you needed more than that, or some different combination, you can always put your own ADCs or whatever you need directly on the test module breakout, because we have SPI, we've got I2C, we've got USB, all available on the test breakout. So you could use any of those methods to communicate with different things if you wanted to. But I keep thinking about Scott says analog input can be used for digital in. Takes a bit of coding though. Yes, that's right. You can just use your okay, Austin made a very good point, which I'll get to in just a second. So when I start talking about other options for this, so this strategy works if I stick to the dedicated I/O chips for each of these types of I/O. But one of the suggestions a while ago was to switch to a different type of I/O chip, and specifically this one, the AD5593. And this is an 8-channel I/O expander, but every channel can be either digital input, digital output, analog input, or analog output. So, and I believe it is a proper DAC. It's not just PWM. So you're not just generating a square wave out of it. It's it is generating an analog voltage, like a consistent analog voltage. The downside is that it is only 12-bit. So we've got, we can drive it as a 12-bit DAC, and you can drive it as a 12-bit ADC. And you can drive it as just GPIOs. So you can, yeah. So what this does is cover all of the possible I/O types that we need in one chip. But there are some downsides. The one of the downsides, where is it? I'm just going to pull it up on DigiKey carts. I've got it in my DigiKey shopping cart right now. Here we go. Loading the cart. ADC DAC. This, yes, this is the one. And look at the price. $17.40 in this is single quantities. $17.42 for a single price. Once you get up to 100, they're $8.82 each. So these are not cheap chips. It's not cheap as chips. So the if we go to this, and also there are only 8, so we would need, where are we? 6. We'd need 7 of them because we've got because we have 24 channels there.
Said, might be a pain, but you could test a board twice using 2 different Testomatic configurations.
You could reconfigure the, yeah, you could use them in different ways. So this is kind of a critical decision point because at the moment I have, all right, how do I explain this? What I'm trying to do with defining this Testomatic header format is something that I can use in the future that's going to be future-proof, even through future revisions of the test hardware. So I might, for example, want to switch to different ADCs. If I have blocks like this, so I have a block of just the analog output, so this is just DACs, and I want to switch to a different type of DAC in future, I could. It's not going to affect anything because the functionality of each type of I/O is bound to that block of pins. And so if instead I chucked in 7 of these chips, and then I just, that would give me no differentiation. We would end up with all of these I/O pins, as any of them could be a digital input, digital output, analog input, or analog output, which is great if you're designing the test breakout because it means you've got all of these pins available to you and you can just use whatever you like. And it's just software. So you just configure what mode do you want that particular pin to be in. So, yeah, so TechNebula said maybe do dual design. So some might have the 805593, or if you choose, then a normal digital I/O or a combination. Yeah, but this is the problem is, and this is where my head can't settle on a solution here. If I make this so that any pin can be any function, it gives great flexibility.
Pete said, almost pizza and beer o'clock.
You know, I kind of feel like pizza today. Yeah, and Stephen W. said, that chip being able to do everything gives great flexibility. If price of the tester being higher means that test breakouts are more flexible and simpler. Yes, and as we saw from the pricing here, so if we've got, say we're buying in quantities, okay, let's just make some numbers here. Say they're $10 a chip, because if I'm buying them in quantity, I'm going to be buying them maybe like 25 at a time, which is $261 worth of them, maybe up to 100 at a time. If I end up actually producing Testomatics as a product,
Pete said with pineapple.
Of course with pineapple. If I'm going to be producing Testomatics as a product, I'm going to be buying these chips by the 100. But let's just use round figures. Let's say $10 for one of these chips. So $10 a chip. We need 7 of them. That's $70 worth of chips of these I/O chips per Testomatic. That's not crazy. It's not super cheap,
Scott Miller
but it's not
said,
crazy.
Pineapple is wrong. That is all.
Because if you're building a chassis, like a tester chassis, and you want it to be flexible and minimize the cost of the module, I would rather push cost from the module into the chassis because it's a one-off expense. You build a chassis and then you can make new modules. You'll be replacing those as you update your devices. Say you do a revision on your board, then you need a new test breakout. You'll probably end up making lots of modules, but might only have one chassis. So yeah, so $70 worth of I/O chips to be able to make all of the I/O pins totally universal, I don't think that is a showstopper. That is okay. Now, one of the limitations is that particular chip only has, where is it? A0, look, it's got one whole address pin. Look at it. Revel in the glory of that one whole address pin. So that means that I can't just connect 7 of these onto the I2C bus and address them all individually. So that's why...
Scott Miller said, what's the current overall BOM cost of the chassis?
I actually don't know. The thing is that it's got a Raspberry Pi 4 in it. It's got a few other things. It's not a cheap build. Building one of these chassis...
Pete said, does the chip take 50 amps?
Of course it does. Oh, that's a throwback to Pete's joke in... hang on, I'm going to find it in Discord. Where is Discord? I'll throw it up. I just... where is Pete's meme channel? Pete's meme channel. I've lost it. Come on. There it is, Pete's meme channel. All right, I'm going
Fun said, is there a risk that non-dedicated output could lead to burning up a board if software is wrong?
Hang on, I've got to stop and think about this question. So some call it fun. Is there a risk that a non-dedicated input-output could lead to burning of a board if software is wrong? If you were trying to drive an output into a dead short, I don't know if there are current limits on the I/O pins. I just don't know. Yeah, not sure about that. But that is a very good point. If you do blow one of the I/O pins in one of those, yeah. Yes, Austin says, well, it's about to say, it might have unforeseeable outcome.
Austin's_creations said, part of the cost to consider is the actual role this plays within a workshop.
Yeah. So there is a another thing, which is getting, this is what Austin was referring to earlier. He was talking about maybe using an AT-Tiny, or was it an AVR? I can't remember. I'm just scrolling back. AT-Tiny with Adafruit Seesaw firmware. So that is, let's see, Adafruit Seesaw. And also there's another thing I'll show you in a minute, which is a serial Wombat. And both of these are the same idea. Adafruit Seesaw. So Adafruit Seesaw, I will read the description, is a near universal converter framework which allows you to add and extend hardware support to any I2C capable microcontroller or microcomputer. Instead of getting separate...
Said, how many boards would you need to successfully test to make the extra 70 worthwhile? Betting not too many.
Yeah, not that many. So that's right, I was talking about the overall BOM cost of the Testomatic chassis. It is fairly high because it's got a Raspberry Pi 4, which is like $100, give or take. Plus all of the other stuff. There is several $100s worth of bill of materials in a Testomatic. And the difference between $40 of I/O chips versus $70 of I/O chips, it's not a showstopper in the overall scheme. A few hundred, yeah. Now this gives you, yeah, but it's only PWM outputs. This is the downside. Okay, so this is getting into the other way of looking at this. So this is a microcontroller acting as an I/O expander, essentially, which means that you have the capabilities of the I/O pins of that microcontroller. Now, Serial Wombat is another take on this. There is a new one right now.
Scott Miller said, squirrels like peanuts.
I don't know what that's about. So this is the same thing. Serial Wombat is a microcontroller being an I/O device with a protocol that you use to talk to it. And there is a Kickstarter for it right now. Is it on? Oh, it hasn't launched yet. Okay. I was looking at this just recently. So I looked at the previous Serial Wombat a couple of years ago, but this is a brand new one, which is just about to come out. So what we've got is a retail price of $1.50 per 8 I/O pins. And it is a microcontroller on a breakout with these pins broken out for I/O. So we've got 8 I/O pins and power, ground, etc. And then you can talk to it from your microcontroller, from your main microcontroller. And the idea, just like the Adafruit Seesaw sort of thing, is you can do all of these funky things offloaded to the I/O expander.
3 minutes until beer o'clock.
Tassie Bob, bring beer. Sorry to disappoint Pete, but I don't like beer. Now the interesting thing about this is that there is all of this functionality, like debounce button input, pulse timer output, quadrature encoding, PID, you can do stuff, H-bridge control, PWM output. It's only got 10-bit A to D conversion because that is the resolution of the onboard ADCs of the micro that it is based on. I can't even remember what the micro was. The original one was a microchip PIC, I think, but I'm not sure what is being used on the most recent one. So, where are we? Does it say it there? No, it doesn't. Oh, it's a CH32V0003. Okay. Yeah, so I can't remember his name. Something Broadwell. What's his first name? I don't remember. I'm sorry. I apologize to Mr. Broadwell. What he's done is create this firmware that runs in the microcontroller that allows the I/O pins in that to be exposed, but also overlays all of this functionality. So instead of having a simple I/O expander, like in this situation, we've got these basic digital I/O expanders from the Raspberry Pi with the Python test script or whatever it is that you're running. You can read these inputs, you can write them, but they are very much like just extra pins that you can address from within your test environment in your software. With something like Serial Wombat, it has all of this functionality. For example, you could set a particular pin and configure it with PID settings, and you can have an entire control loop running in the I/O chip to achieve some output. And you could read from quadrature encoders and do pulse timing, all of this stuff, which is being offloaded to the I/O chip. And of course, we've now got the Raspberry Pi RP2350 just about to become generally available. We're in that interregnum right now where people who had early access to the RP2350 have already designed and built dev boards for it. So you can buy dev boards for the 2350 right now, but last time I checked, you couldn't buy the bare chips. But in any case, yeah, David T says, hardware acceleration. Yeah, basic logic in the chip itself. That's right, because the I/O expander is a complete microcontroller and the firmware takes care of it. So you can just tell it, I want you to take this pin and turn it into a debounce button input and then tell me when I get a button. And you don't have to worry about debouncing in your own code or anything. You can just set all the parameters for it. Or plug in a matrix keypad and it'll do all of the decoding and then just tell you the results. Do like generate UART signals. Yeah, more pin modes. Step and motor control, IR remote decoding, RC PPM input, I2C to NeoPixel, etc. So that is another option. So I am now in this decision paralysis state where I don't know whether I should ditch these dedicated I/O chips, so digital ADC and DAC, and go to something like one of these chips, or...
Pete said, more importantly, the RP2350 has RISC-V.
I know you love RISC-V, Pete. Yes, the RP2350.
Pete said, more importantly, the RP2350 has RISC-V.
Scott asked, have they sorted out the RP2350 I/O locking up issues yet? I think so. Oh, and Scott has a suggestion.
Scott Miller said, move the I/O chips to a daughter board.
Yeah,
Pete said, more importantly, the RP2350 has RISC-V.
Why is it repeating? I will mute in a second, or maybe I'll just reload if it repeats again. Yeah, Pete, you break it. You break it, you bought it. Okay, so we could go...
Pete said, woot, I broke it again.
Stop talking, Pete. So we could go for these I/O chips. We could go for something like the Adafruit Seesaw. We could go for Serial Wombat. But then that's only 10, where was it? 10-bit A to D conversion. And 10-bit is crappy. At the 12 is borderline.
Scott Miller said, Pete is a bad influence this week. Well, most weeks.
Yeah, Pete's face is a bad influence. So which gives really crappy A to D conversion. I'm not even sure. I think this may actually rule out Serial Wombat off the bat. If it doesn't do 12-bit A to D, at least I don't think it's worth using. And also it doesn't have, this is the other thing, doing this with any of the microcontroller solutions like Serial Wombat or Adafruit Seesaw, you don't get DACs. You only get PWM output. That's the closest you can get. So, and the thing is that I need DACs for some of the testing that I need to do. In fact, I need it for this test thing that I'm assembling right now, because this board takes a joystick that plugs into it, and the joystick has, it's a Hall effect joystick that outputs an analog signal.
Some Call It Fun said, I thought you were going to extend the digital directly on test board for special cases and future proofing.
Yes, that's right, but I want the basic functionality to at least be good enough. I don't want to really have crippled analog A to Ds, for example. Analog to digital conversion is a really fundamental part of a test chassis. So it needs to be at least 12, preferably...
Pete said, oh look, pizza and beer o'clock. Bye, don't forget to dislike and unsubscribe.
That's right. At least 12-bit ADC, preferably higher. Like it doesn't need to be 18-bit ADC or anything ridiculous like that, but 12 I would say is the baseline that I would be happy with. So this board, you plug a joystick into it. It's a Hall effect joystick which outputs an analog voltage off a 5-volt reference with 2.5 volts as the midpoint when the joystick is in the middle, and it deflects one way, or the voltage goes up or down as the joystick deflects, and it does that on each axis. In order to test this board, I want to simulate a joystick. So I want my tester to use a DAC to generate a reference voltage going into the joystick interface on the board, and then I want to be able to move that reference voltage and see that the board responds, that it reads its joystick input correctly. So I need DACs, and if I only have PWM, that is not good enough. I would need to run the PWM through something like an RC network to generate a stable voltage coming out of it. So I want minimum 12-bit ADCs and I want DACs. So with all of that said, I am leaning towards, so I really do like the idea of these dedicated chips, like firmware on a micro being an I/O expander, particularly the Serial Wombat, because it has so much extra stuff in it. All these different things that you can assign as smart functions to I/O pins. Being able to do that is super cool. But also, it has that hardware limitation. And someone, I can't remember who, said, mentioned FPGAs. So an FPGA front end on this may be part of a solution in future if I find, if there is an FPGA that I can use that has suitable analog front end on the fabric, so that it can be configured to do proper DAC and good ADC and all of those sorts of things.
Scott Miller said, definitely looks like I/O through a daughter board is a plan.
What about ADCs on opto-isolated I2C and isolated power, says Wagon Loads. Yeah, you could do that. It could be totally isolated that way. But I'm trying to avoid using daughter boards for this, but it may be worthwhile just because of the risk of damage to the tester. So maybe what I need to do is rethink where is it? This part of the board up here. So if this area right here is where all of the I/O happens. These are the digital I/Os. There are a couple of ADCs here, and there is a DAC here. And I haven't actually populated all of the pins. On this was really like an experiment. It was a first draft to see, well, a second draft, to see if this strategy was going to work. So I only have 4 of the DAC channels connected instead of 16, because these DACs are moderately expensive as well. And also that just saved me doing a whole lot of routing if that strategy wasn't going to work. So what I could do is, in this area right here, I could have a bunch of pins and a daughter board that plugs in that would have connections to all of the I/O pins, and it would have I2C, and that's it. It wouldn't need anything else. Well, and power obviously. So then I could put onto that daughter board different things depending on what strategy I wanted to use. It could be, yeah, got all of the options. Don said, Digilant have modular analog modules for test rigs. Oh, Wagon Load says you can measure isolated ground voltages. Right, you can with opto-isolated ADCs. Yeah, you could measure grounds that are isolated, which could be useful in some situations. Yes. Now, this really gets into the question of how you can go very minimal with just some basic I/O on the tester. You can go super flexible and cover everything possible, like opto-isolated ADCs, etc. Or you can go somewhere in the middle. And the question is, where is that comfortable middle point? For me, I would not go to the trouble of opto-isolated floating ground ADCs because that is not going to be needed in a typical situation. But you can still do it through the test module if you want to. So I've just got to, yeah, and Mitchell said, just make sure to denote a spec for those pins if you do minimal flexible, i.e. daughter board. Yep, good point. And Stephen W said also means if you blow up inputs and outputs, you can just swap the daughter board until you get around to replacing the damaged chip. Exactly. Paul Schultz said add a second card slot. Yeah, that would be one way to do it. And then just cross-link all the pins on the card slot. But that would be large and cumbersome. I'm really going to have to think this one through. You can see my conundrum. I'm puzzling through because there are so many considerations and pressures from different directions. And this ultimately, I suppose, is what engineering comes down to, is understanding all of the constraints and coming up with a design strategy that takes those different constraints into account. So not going totally overboard one direction or the other and not necessarily locking yourself into a particular solution. But I also don't want, you can also go too far with making it general and modular and replaceable, and you can end up with something that is overly complicated because you are trying to make it very modular. I want to make it modular enough, but not so that the whole thing is a big complex mess. I am starting to come around, I am coming around to the idea of what am I saying? Of making a daughter board, or maybe even multiple daughter boards that plug in here that do the I/O so that they can be replaced if you do happen to blow up an I/O pin on one of the breakouts. Stephen W said the Raspberry Pi CM4 and 5 use a 100 pin header that's good for high-speed signals too. Yeah. Some Call It Fun says, I've had bad luck predicting future needs. I have begun to simply trust building just what I need. That's a really interesting way of putting it. I like that. David T said, it's complicated to make things simple. Absolutely. That is a basic principle. But Some Call It Fun's approach. It sort of aligns with something that I haven't really heard it articulated in quite that way before, but it kind of aligns with the vibe, I suppose, of the approach that I've been taking with a lot of designs recently. And part of this is a lesson that I've learned working with a particular client. And this client he's very focused on point solutions. So doing something that fulfills the specific need and nothing more, nothing less. And I do quite a few different projects with this client. Like I've designed, how many boards have I designed for him? Maybe a couple of dozen, something in that order, many, many boards. And there is overlap between them, but the way he thinks of it is you reuse building blocks at the design stage. You don't try to make a board that is universal that solves all those different problems. Now with a test chassis like this, we do have the issue that it has to be flexible and extensible. So you can't just build the minimum thing that suits the one test device under test. It has to be quite generalizable. But I do like the general mindset of trust building what you need and you will learn from that, rather than trying to think through all of the possible things that you might need in the future and covering all of those eventualities, because you'll probably not realize something that you do end up needing, and you will probably allow for something that you never end up caring about. So there is that balance where you have to be ready to iterate on your design, not be totally wedded to it and say this is fixed forever. You have to be ready to iterate if you learn things from using it for real. but not preemptively add too many things because you might need them in future. It's it's like that classic thing about preemptive optimization in code. When you're taking code and trying to make it run fast, you can sit there and think through it all you like, but really what you need to do is write the code, run it, and then profile it. And the profiler will give you real numbers and will show you things that in your code are slow when you didn't think they were going to be, and it will show you things where you thought the code might be slow and it turns out to actually run really quickly. So I fall into the build it and measure or build it and test sort of camp a little bit more than the overanalyze and think through all possible scenarios before trying to do anything. At a certain point, you just got to get in there and build it and do things. Maybe you'll screw it up, maybe it'll work, but you'll probably learn something. Scott said, Rev 99.99.99 still has things missing. Yeah. Where are we? Okay, so I've been off on a mini rant and I need to catch up on chat. Where is it? As long as you don't need more than 200 milliamps per pin. Yeah, that shouldn't be the case with any of the I/O pins. There's plenty of power available, and if you want to switch power, then you do that on the tester using transistors or whatever. So I'm just going to read through some of Mitchell's comments now. In fact, I should have these up on screen. That's where they should be. So basically, small modules, 4 to 8 pins or something, and by default, when the unit is shipped, it has one of these slots. So if you need more slots or have a broken unit, easy to swap, but basically what you currently have, just broken off board to keep it simple and for space. But if there's anything more complex, goes on the test base board rather than the core board. But you could possibly put a more custom board since direct pins and I2C or whatever comms, and that is all that is available on those boards. Yeah, I am leaning more and more towards custom like a subboard thing. So John said ADS 7128 8x12-bit ADC at $2.12 in quantity 100. Whoa, that's nice and cheap. Yeah. Okay, so there is another tension here, which is if you swap the test module because you want to test a different device under test, everything that is required for that target should go with the module. I don't want a situation where you think, I'm going to test a different type of board, therefore I need to unplug the I/O modules from the Testomatic chassis and plug in new I/O modules. So whatever those modules are that you plug in, they need to be universal. Crispian said, you'll still be working on it in 2035. Maybe. Maybe Testomatic will be my business then. I don't know. Yeah. Mitchell said, yeah, that's why I/O modules type only, they should be kind of standard. Custom on test board. Yes. Mitchell, you and I are thinking the same way. You make the I/O universal to your use case. Yeah, that's interesting. That's another way of looking at it too. Yeah, your use case might require a certain combination of things. So I'm inclined to go for test modules. Now the question is it one big subboard that plugs in here that handles all the I/O, or is it multiple small subboards? Because we could do, say, 16 channels per subboard, and you could have 3 channels in here. But so you'd have 48 I/O pins, but I just don't know. What it would allow is to replace, say there was a change in the future where we decide to go, oh, we no longer want to use the ADS 5593, we want to use Serial Wombat or something. And now we have a board that plugs in to the same header location, but it implements the universal I/O using Serial Wombat instead. I don't have required modules. Mitchell says, a possible idea which could be done in software if you have an EEPROM on the small subboards which denote what they can do. Oh look, someone's dropping some rubber outside. I should be going out there with my camera, with my phone now to try to get the number plate. But I'm on a stream, so I won't. Yeah, when you plug in a test board, the system can go, no. Yes. That's a possible extra complication though. Having an EEPROM on every subboard starts to get complicated. We've got layers on layers on layers here. I think, yeah, Simon says, KISS so that they can actually be produced. Yeah. Scott says, aren't all of the current I/O chips basically I2C managed? Yes. Maybe what I should do is get in on like Tiny Tape Out or something, design my own chip and make it a universal I/O chip with a decent DAC and decent ADC built in. If you do the micro and the micro does comms and it states on I2C or whatever, yeah, and also the addresses could be different. So what you could do is scan the bus, scan the I2C bus, discover what I/O expanders are plugged in, and then treat them appropriately. I am curious to see what's going on out there. I do want to grab my phone and go out there and see if I can snap a number plate, but yeah, I won't. Not unless they arc up again right outside my front door. Put the I/O daughter boards in the test panel and just talk to them through I2C. Yeah, but then you need them on each daughter board. This is the design decision about where do you put the complexity. And I want the complexity to not be replicated. If there's something complicated, I want it once, just in the chassis, and not on every single test module. I want the modules to be as simple as possible. All right, I think the summary of all of this is that regardless of what particular I/O is used, like whether it's the current scheme with MCP 23017s and ADS 1115s, etc. Oh, which reminds me, I've got to go back in here. I've got to take a note of this. Who was it earlier that was mentioning? Here we go. John Whips said this. I am going to copy that and stick it in notes somewhere. New text edit window, that'll do. I'm just going to paste it in there for now because I'm going to stick that in for future reference. Put the common stuff in the chassis and any custom stuff put on the test board. Exactly. That is the... Thanks, Mitchell, for making a note of that. That is exactly the strategy. So it does worry me a little, even with the existing design, like with this design, that if, for example, one of the I/O pins on the MCP gets blown for some reason, then you're essentially screwed. Your entire Testomatic has now just become useless because one of these chips needs to be replaced and you've got to disassemble it, etc. So even sticking with this current strategy, I like the idea of putting another header in here, like right here, which just one-to-one maps all of these I/O pins, and then I can plug in a module that has all of the I/O strategy on it, whatever that might be. So it could be done with these, it could be done with seesaws or serial wombats, or I can never remember these things, the AD5593s. It doesn't matter. And then design that I/O board as a separate exercise. And I think maybe doing it as a single, oh, it's going to be a bastard to plug and unplug because of all of the pins. So the next decision is, should that be a single subboard that encompasses all of the I/O, or should we have like one subboard for every 8 pins, or what should it be? So you just put sockets in. Yeah, Simon said single module would work just as well, but def keep info on that board. It can easily be matched in the EEPROM from the test board. Yeah, I could have just used socketed 23017s. Mitchell says, think of DDR slots. DDR. Yeah, and someone earlier mentioned the sockets that are used on the... Where are we? Somewhere. Oh, the PM... Yeah, the compute modules, the CM4. Compute module, CM4 socket. What is the connector? It's a Hyros... It's thingamy, bligamy, this thing. That's where the Raspberry Pi connector is good. It's just a single plug with high density. Yeah. On the CM4 called. Both made by Hyros. That first lays flat on the board, and the second has around 1.5mm clearance. Okay, so if I did that, I would need to, let's see, if I did that, I would need to keep the PCB clear. Oh, it's one of Sean's videos, cool. The PCB clear underneath it. Yeah, they're pretty nasty connectors though. Yeah, get the 3mm clearance version. And as Mitchell says, the CM4 connector is just so small. Yeah, it is painfully small. I would rather avoid those super fine pitched connectors if possible. Yeah. DigiKey. It'd be nice if there was something that was a little bit bigger than that. Not necessarily 0.1 inch pitch. Yeah, CM4 connectors are nasty, says Scott. What about something like a C64 game cart? Isn't that just like a 0.1 inch pitch edge connector? I can't remember what the C64 game cart connectors look like. So, if someone has suggestions, hang on, let's characterize this. What are the requirements? We need to bring out...
Mitchell R said, old school Raspberry Pi header 40W.
Ah, yeah. Old school Raspberry Pi header. That is... it's not quite enough pins though. That's the thing. It is a surprisingly large number of pins that we care about. We've got... what have we got? What do we have? We've got... That's why I said IDE, said Crispian. Yeah, ×2. Yeah, it's a lot of pins. It makes the module very hard to plug and unplug. Sodium socket with a card edge PCB is a whole lot of pins. Sodium.
Mitchell R said, old school Raspberry Pi header 40W ×2.
Yeah. Sodium socket. Sodium DIMM connectors. They don't look all that fun to work with either. I'm just gonna pick one at random. Oh yeah, they look nasty
Scott
to work
Miller
with.
said, just count your I/O connections at I2C plus power.
Yeah, sorry. That's what I was getting to. So what have we got here? If we come back to here, we have...
Scott Miller said, just count your I/O connections at I2C plus power. Outside the box said, a whole bunch of alligator clips.
There's the answer. So we've got 16, whoops.
Scott Miller said, just count your I/O connections at I2C plus power. Outside the box said, a whole bunch of alligator clips.
Okay, I gotta pause this. What's going on with this? Or I'm gonna hit reload.
Scott Miller said, just count your...
Yeah, I'm gonna hit refresh on TTS because it's balking out. Molex 32, 48, 56. So we need 56 plus power and I squared C. So essentially 60 pins is what we care about. 60 pins. What can I do that will get me 60 pins in a reasonable form factor? High pin count interboard connector, says Jack's Tech. Exactly. Connectors suck. Connectors suck. They can be really annoying. A ZIF socket? No, ZIF wouldn't be enough pins and it would be too expensive. I don't really have a solution. Amphenol, says David T. Yeah, amphenol. I need some visual way of searching. Amphenol make lots of different connectors though. So let's have a look. For example, if you just search for amphenol connectors, you get all of these barrel type connectors, but they also do other stuff. Board to board connectors. What options do we have? The automotive board to board. What is that board? Yeah. Use a ribbon cable and mount the PCB, or the CubeSat connector maybe. Oh. So Lachlan's suggesting the CubeSat connector. The CubeSat connector is actually a PC104 connector, which is PC104, which looks like one of these. It's 4 rows of pins, and that would certainly be plenty of pins, but they kind of suck in terms of plugging and unplugging. You don't want to have to plug them and unplug them too often. They come in these rows. Often you get them as a double, and then you double them up. Or you can get them specially made like this with the four rows. And as you can imagine, these suck to solder. I have had to solder these quite a few times, and trying to solder into the pins in between on the bottom is horrible, because in this particular type they are a stacking header, and so you've got to solder in between the pins, and it's 4 rows of pins without getting solder on the pin itself, just into the joint on the PCB. Not fun at all. Mini stack. What is mini stack? I don't think I've heard of that. Mini stack. Mini stack connector. 0.6 millimeter. That could be an option. Mini stack, high density. Those high pin count ones are used in systems like PXI, test instrument backplanes, but they usually had ejector levers to help with insertion and ejection. Yeah. Use a solder pot and wick. Yep. Amphenol has a... okay. So these are made by Amphenol. Mini stack. I wonder what these are like. Well, 40 pos to 400 pos in an increment of 40. So we'd have to go for the 80 because we need a total of 60. So withstanding up to 60 times mating cycles. Yeah. Supports stack heights of that, blah, blah, blah. Let's try DigiKey and search for mini stack and see if they've got anything. Nothing. All right. What about Octopart? Octopart and mini stack. What have we got? What is that? Mini stack 13B. Do not know of any distributors for it. All right. Well, that's annoying. Where do you buy mini stack? Mini stack product inquiry. Where to buy? Where to buy? Made it change. Oh, okay. To see if it fixes Pete and Scott. Nothing can fix Pete and Scott. They look like the removal force would be reasonable. Expensive though. Do it to make any connectors that would work. Yeah. Yeah, these look suitable, but could be expensive. Yep. Good that you're trying to fix. Yeah, obsolete parts will really hurt the future proofing, said some call it fun. That is an excellent point. That is a good argument towards using just like regular 0.1. Oh, Bergstack. What is Bergstack connectors? So there's mini stack and there's Bergstack. I guess that's an Amphenol thing as well. So let's try here. Bergstack. Yes, Bergstack. Lots of different types. All right. Bergstack 0.4. Let's go for one of the larger ones because I hate really fine pitch connectors. 0.8 millimeter board to board. All right. Let's just try these. Details. Bergstack. Yeah. They would probably do the job. 0.8 millimeter though. I would rather something larger pitch than that, like 1.2 millimeter pitch. Because remember, this is going to be me putting them together. Amphenol. Ooh, okay. I got to search for this. And let's check it out on DigiKey. Oh, so it's like a card edge connector, 67 pos, 0.5 millimeter pitch, and it's a card edge connector. Okay, that is very fine pitch though, and also that would mean the card sticking out horizontally. Well, perpendicular to the board that it's mounted on, at least. That's what I was trying to say. Very, very poorly. 67 contacts. Yeah, it's on a 0.5 pitch though. Stephen W said, that's why I like the Raspberry Pi one. As long as it's machine assembled, it's fine to work with. Harwin. Okay, says Lachlan, M55 blah blah blah, also made by Ernie in 4Yukon. Yeah, 4Yukon is good as a second source if you can find, if they make something. So 1.27 millimeter. That's a comfortable pitch to work with. That's all right. And I don't think what is my brain telling me that this thing is? I don't understand. All right, so this goes on one side of it, and then is there a matching thingamajigamy? I don't know. Yeah, not particularly cheap, but then I wouldn't really expect stuff to be cheap. Card edge of some sort would be a good option. At least you only need to solder the socket once and not the plugs. Yep. Mitchell says, check the Molex link I sent. Where is the Molex? Oh, here. Okay. Molex. Come on. Oh. No, I want to get rid of that. That's it. Speedmez connectors. What is the... Yeah, tell me about it. 22, 60 and 82. Huh. 60 is perfect, of course. Then... Datasheet, connector application guide. Let's see. Business challenge. Oh, nope. Nope. I don't want to read that. Speedmez. Speedmez. Maybe I'll get more sense out of DigiKey by searching for Speedmez. Nope. Why doesn't DigiKey have these things? These are from big name manufacturers. At 80 pins, you also have microbit edge connectors, straight or right angle. JCar and Electronics have them, and different heights. Take a look at, yep, Amphenol, blah. Microbit edge connectors, I also will look for microbit edge connector. Let's see what that comes out as. Images. How many pins does this have? Because we need to keep in mind that, they're often locked to certain buyers. Yeah, that seems silly. Microbit edge connector. Let's go and have a look at what Core have to say about it. How many pins is this? Give me some specs and stats. Works with microbit, breaks out 21 pins. What is the actual connector? Because that connector is way more than 21 pins. Because on the microbit they've grouped some pins together for the power pins. What is this? What actually is it? Kitronix edge connector. That looks like a fairly large number of pins on the connector itself. Crispian said old school scuzzy. Maybe. Edge connector. Kitronix edge connector. Let's see. Oh, that's the breakout again. I don't want the breakout. I want the connector. That's annoying me too much. All right. Back to this one. Back to this other suggestion. This is 67 pos. Yeah, I think this one came up before, didn't it? But it's a 0.5mm pitch. Now the thing with this is the reliability of connections through it on the PCB side. I don't like the idea of trying to design the PCB edge connector that, yeah, MAQ. Oh look, they got 244 in stock, and the lowest price they give you is on a box of 800. That's the right angle version, yeah. I want to see if I can make it fit with 0.1 inch pins. That looks like an M.2 socket. The thing is that what we have here is we essentially need to break out, where's my group tool? All of the pins on the left half of this connector, or do we? No, not all of them, because those ones are going to USB. It is coming along to, where are we, GPIO, then we've got USB 3, oh there's SCK, so that's I2C, GPIO 18, there, okay. So it is all the pins from, I'm going to do it above, not on the connector. Basically all of the pins that would be encompassed by that area, like down here, those are the ones that we need to break out to this daughter board. It's a lot of pins, which means the equivalent area down here of 0.1 inch header. Now the advantage of this is that the breakout board itself can be fairly large because it can overlap with a whole lot of the parts that are on the main Testomatic board here. You don't have to use it, but you have to use a thin PCB for that socket. Okay, so Stephen was giving some suggestions about the design. Okay, so we need 60, so if we did 20 plus 20 plus 20, if we did, which is 1 by 10, it's a series of 1 by 10s, or if we did, yeah, Mitchell says there are two options. Okay, DigiKey, let's check this one. And I'm in Aussie land. What's this connector? Oh, this is like a, yep, okay. It's like a memory thingy. And this one, marketplace product. I still don't want to fabricate the PCB for this. I don't know. I'm not going to resolve this today because, yeah, 288 pins might be overkill. Yeah, I'm not keen on those ones. This one, I don't.
Some Call It Fun said, can you treat your riser board as the daughter board and just use existing connections?
The riser board as the daughter board and use existing connections. I'm trying to parse that sentence. Use the existing, where are we? Can you treat your riser board as the daughter board and just use existing connections? I don't understand what that sentence is trying to say. Yeah, at the moment it is. I've got these I/O chips directly on this riser board, but we want to pull them off onto another subboard. I don't have an answer. No. I think I'm going to have to stop because I'm not going to solve this right now. This is something to puzzle over and also perhaps to discuss in Discord. So if anybody has suggestions, feel free to drop them in Discord. And, oh, what's this one? Keep it in the family. Why? Is this a joke? Obsolete, no longer manufactured. Yeah, that, what is the pitch on this? 1 millimeter pitch.
Outside the box said, time to go away and think about it.
This is actually not a bad solution. The problem potentially is that with these card edge connectors, the daughter board is going to come out of the riser board in a perpendicular fashion. So we've got the perpendicular connection here to the test breakout. We would have another perpendicular board. So what I'd have to do is put it down very low to make it come out under the deck of the tester. So if I come back to here, chassis, yes, here? No. Let's try this one. This might give us some idea, some way of illustrating what I'm talking about. Yeah, as Crispian says, time to go away and think about it. All these different things puzzling over in my head. Get rid of that. Now I'm going to make the... where are we? We can't see... oh, okay, no, this is not the assembled thing. This is without the plates. I think riser plate. It's got the riser plate in it. Why doesn't it have... I'm just going to do an update. I don't even know what has updated in this. What has changed? Yeah, this is not the assembly with all of the mechanicals in it. But it gives you an idea. So we've got the test breakout, the test module plugging in here. If we put another card edge connector in, it could go in around this area here, like approximately where the USB hub is and USB connector. It could go right there, and then the I/O board would plug in horizontally, and it would go below the deck of the tester chassis. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of into decision paralysis state here at the moment. So I don't know what the answer is. Yeah. Mitchell says, what about doing what the Chinese do? A mini daughter board that is directly soldered onto the main board to make the connector 90 degrees. Yep. Oh, okay. Some Call It Fun says, I thought you had a board that simply bridged the gap between the tester and your Pi. No, the Pi plugs in on a 40-pin cable. So you can see the Pi's header there. There is a 40-pin cable that plugs into that. So the Pi effectively just connects in through there. And then those signals go to various places on the board. On your screen, David asked something. What was it? I don't know. Why don't we make the bottom of the tester board golden figures and add a PCI on the I/O board, then it gets both sides. Bottom of the tester board golden fingers. Is there actually a structure that would block where the current I/O chips are? Oh, there is physical structure of the deck, but there is a gap. What I did was I made the deck end short of the PCB so that it comes along here and stops before it gets that far. It stops below this point, essentially. In fact, I can show you because I have one right here. Oh. Switch back to ugly face cam. So this is the example. If I hold it like this, it's a bit hard to see actually. It's like trying to look at Wonder Woman's invisible jet or something. You can't actually see stuff because it's transparent. So we've got the riser board there and the socket that the test module plugs into and the deck here. So this deck goes towards the PCB, but it stops short of it. It doesn't actually go all the way to the PCB. So that's the current structure. So what we're talking about potentially is adding a connector in here, so there would be a board coming out inside, and that's where the breakout would go. I have got to the point where I am no longer being clear of mind and body and soul. So I've been, oh hang on, Simon said I've been using touch displays where the Pi mounted is directly on the rear. Could be an option to simplify things a bit, still need to run the cable between them. Yeah, that was how the original one was done. The first Testomatic, the version 1, had the Pi plugged directly into the carrier board, I think. Yeah. So that was so basically it was like a big Pi hat. Yeah, what? I'm an hour over time. I didn't realize I'd gone so far over time. That is why I am no longer being functional. I have drained all the glucose from my brain. It has spilled out. And I can't think properly anymore. So, I'm going to have to go. Because this is just, you know, when the show falls apart, when everything goes to crap. Yeah, Marco John has failed successfully. David! David, you made it. But now I'm going to go. I'm going to go and eat. Seriously, I can feel that my brain is not functioning properly. I need a break. So, thank you very much for coming along, for struggling through this with me, or being frustrated and watching me struggle. I know it's a pain, especially for Pete. And I hope you have a fantastic week, and I will talk to you all soon. Jump on Discord if you have suggestions for further Testomatic development. Thanks! See ya!